Hey friends, it's Icy and today I've got some reading journal spreads. First and foremost, I like to start my journal with a quote. And this is one of my favorite things to say to myself whenever I'm reading, especially when I'm reading a really good book. I try to tell myself, oh, just one more chapter and then we'll stop reading, but it never happens. Feel free to pick a different quote from what I've chosen. For this reading journal video, I've decided to go with a typewriter looking kind of font, which I have included in the printable that comes with this blog. So feel free to print that out and write the quote in the typewriter font that I have used. So I would draft everything out in pencil first so that it would be easy for me to modify, and then I would finalize with a pen. So feel free to use any colored pens you want. And in that same printable I was talking about earlier, it also comes with step-by-step instructions on how you can do book doodles. So again, I draft the doodles out in pencil first, and then I finalize using the pen of my choosing once I'm happy with everything. And then I start with the outlines first, and then once I'm done with all the outlines, I proceed to adding finer details like pages of the book, paragraphs on the actual pages of the book, and even little illustrations, and adding little design covers on the book spines. Also, feel free to use different colors for your book doodles, and you can make your book doodles and your book journal as colorful as you like. And one final touch that I wanted to add was these little gold stars around the quotes page. So for the next page, I have also decided to include the current year. So another option that you can do with this is you can split your reading journal into months. So when January 2022 is done, you can have a separate page for February 2022, so that way your reading journal is divided into the 12 months of the year, so you can see your reading progress for every month. So this reading journal that I'm currently doing is an annual one, so I'm not going to divide it into months. Okay, so next we'll be doing a reading log. This spread is actually inspired by those old-fashioned library checkout cards you find behind the books, where you write your name and when you borrowed the book and when the book is due. Except that for this reading log, we'll include the start and finish dates for the specific books that we read. And again, I've drafted everything out in pencil first before finalizing with the pen of my choosing, and I've used the typewriter hand lettering font that is included in the printable. So the purpose of this spread is to keep track on the books that we've read and the start and finish dates as well. So again, feel free to do a reading log for every month of the year. For me, I've decided to do an annual reading log because I only get to read 3 to 4 or even less books a month. So the next page we'll be doing is our reading goals. So reading goals is basically a page in our reading journal where we put the number of books that we would like to read within a year. My reading goal page is basically very simple. I've seen other people include other things like specific genres they would want to read more of. Sometimes people even join reading challenges, and they even have a little book bingo on their goal page, so you feel free to include all of that on yours. And for the empty spaces around the text, I just like to add little book doodles so it looks a bit more bookish. The average number of books that I've read the past few years is around 20 to 30. So I'm gonna stick with 30 because I don't want to set my expectations too high and put a lot of pressure on myself, because I want reading to be fun and not feel like a chore. And the next page would be my reading progress tracker. I like to think of a progress tracker as achieving little milestones in between the actual goal. So because I want to read 30 books this year, I have decided to divide that 30 into 6 mini milestones, which are represented by these 6 book doodles, which have the numbers 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 on them. And underneath those numbers, I've also included a little space where I would write the date in which, for example, I've completed 5 books, and then 10 books, 15 books, 20 books, and so on and so forth. And another thing that you can do aside from that is you can color in the books as you've achieved the mini milestones. So next up, we've got a reading tracker. So from the name itself, reading tracker, this spread is basically for tracking how many days in a month or in a year that you've spent reading. In the bullet journal community, there are so many ways to track your habits like reading, and I've selected this one mainly because I find it the most easiest to set up. And because my reading journal is an annual one, I will be doing an annual reading tracker. So for each month of the year, I've got one column. And for each of those columns, I've divided them into the number of days that the month has. So my reading tracker basically is a grid with a lot of squares in it. And after finishing the squares, I number all of the days of the month. So with this reading tracker, you basically color in the days of the month or the year that you've read a book. A fun idea for this is to pick a color for every book that you read. And at the end of the year, you'll have a really colorful reading tracker. Lastly, we've got the reviews page. I personally like keeping a record on the thoughts that I've had about a book, and especially my favorite quotes from that book. I've also decided to throw in little details like the synopsis, the genre, and the dates read, and of course my rating. And for this big space up here, I would stick a photo or doodle, and my rating here. And this big space here is for my favorite quotes. Alright, so it's time for a flip through. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching, and don't forget to show us your work by tagging us on Instagram. Thank you!